this session. So again, this session's on applying to grad school, and it will be recorded and emailed out to you along with the presentation slides. So feel free to just, sit back and enjoy the presentation and maybe think about some questions to ask. If questions do come up, make sure to put them in the chat, and we'll take some time throughout the presentation to answer those questions. So before we dive into all the details on applying to grad school, I first want to tell you a little bit about SOLES. So SOLES is a collective of various different academic departments, centers, and institutes. We have multiple degree programs and graduate certificate programs, 34 full-time faculty members, for over 40 affiliated faculty, and then over 30 administrators and staff. From all of our programs that we offer, we have over 800 graduate students, 48% of which are students of color. And all of what we do and create at SOLES is rooted in our core values of diversity, inclusion, and social justice, excellence in teaching, care for the whole person and common home, community engagement, and excellence in scholarship. And these are just a few quotes that some of the students have shared about the SOLES culture. So it is very much a space where students' voices are heard and where they're able to be authentic. It's very supportive. There's just a lot of different backgrounds. There's a lot of diversity. So it really creates a very collaborative environment. All right, so applying to grad school can definitely be an overwhelming process. There's a lot of schools, a lot of different programs and pathways that you can choose from. So one of our biggest tips before applying is to work backwards, identify your why, identify the degree that will get you to where you want to get to. So think about your goals, career-wise, personal, and decide what kind of career and degree will allow you to obtain those goals. List your must-haves. So think about location, financial aid, research opportunities, the faculty, job placement, whether programs or institutions require standardized test scores, if there's study abroad opportunities, and then, find the institutions that meet number 1 and 2. Some of the additional things that is encouraged is to see if the institutions that you're applying to have student ambassadors or students that you can talk to about their experience and get those insights about, classes, the culture, what it's like to interact and engage with their classmates or with faculty, and then speak to admissions advisors so you know all the details of applying to the programs, know more about, the institution as well, and get any questions answered. If this is an option, definitely visit campuses, or a lot of times they'll have virtual tours that you can do. You want to also write your admissions essay. So have career counselors, faculty, family members, or if there's a writing center at your alma maters or current institutions, have them review your essays. And then do some research ahead of time about loans, fellowships, assistantships, and other work study opportunities. And a lot of times there's going to be general application requirements that you'll see all throughout, the various programs or institutions that you'll be applying to. So some of the more general requirements is completing an online application. And something to keep in mind is that some institutions might have a university wide, or for instance, in California, there's the state California institutions, and they have a general application for all those institutions, but then they have their separate department or program-based application. So it might be 2 applications that you're submitting, or whereas in our case, there's just 1 graduate application that you complete. Resumes, recommendation letters, statement of purpose, standardized test scores, and then official transcripts or transcript evaluations if you completed your degree outside the US. Those might all be some general application requirements that you'll see. And then a few months before applying, definitely you want to look into taking those graduate admissions tests that might be required. So I know for instance, like maybe teachers, you might have to get some basic skills exams completed, or maybe it is taking the GRE, et cetera. Request your letters of recommendation with plenty of time so that your references, get familiar with the deadlines, and also make sure that they write your letters on time. You'll want to request your official transcripts from your registrar or one-stop centers at your campuses where you graduated. And we do only require your transcript for the degrees you completed. So wherever you completed those degrees, those are the only transcripts we would require at USD. But some other schools might require multiple. So it's very important that you really dig into that requirement and see what's all needed. You'll also want to complete the free application for federal student aid. These applications are available as early as October 1st. And for USD, the graduate priority deadline is April 1st. So you definitely want to also look at when the priority deadlines for that is for the other institutions. But make sure you apply on time and submit as early as you can, because you want to make sure that things are received by the deadlines. You don't want to have to worry if, some schools might be really hard on the requirement on those deadlines and may not accept any application materials after that. So definitely apply as early as you're able to. And before we jump into more resume and more individual based information, oh, I don't know why this is going forward versus backwards. 1 second. Okay, I'm going to just have Bobby introduce herself. Bobby is one of our wonderful SOLES ambassadors, and she's going to be sharing a bit about her experience applying to grad school.
Hi, my name is Bobby Cox, and I just graduated with my master's degree in 2020. I am now doing my first semester for my PhD in the leadership program. I'm sorry, Shannon, what was I supposed to answer?
Oh, no, that's great. So yes, Bobby is a graduate of our master's in leadership studies and is now doing her PhD in leadership. So she's got perspectives of applying to both, master's level and doctoral level programs. And Bobby, if you could just share, what was your process before applying, your process in looking at schools, programs, and what were the things that were important in your search?
That's a good question. So being a single parent, I know I needed something that was close. I also needed to find a place where I wasn't a dollar sign. So there's many students that I spoke to that have gotten to bigger universities where it's harder to get the professors or their assistants attention in answering their questions or getting the help they needed. So I know I didn't want anything that was too big where I wasn't going to get what I was paying for. I didn't want to be a dollar sign. I also, from doing my bachelor's, I also knew that I wanted something that was more catered to my needs. So with USD, especially with the SOLES, you can kind of create your own degree. So for instance, with me, for my electives, I decided that I wanted to take the leadership coaching. And I also took that, which is a certification, and I also did the restorative justice certification. So I walked out of there with my master's with 2 certifications and a degree. And I really, really like the fact that I was able to pick and choose. Now with my PhD, since I already have those certifications, which they have a few other certifications if you want to look through and research what might adhere more to you. I also am going to be able to do that with my PhD now, since I already have those certifications under my belt. I can go ahead and look and see if there's anything else that I would like, that I feel like with my leadership studies that could help me better suit in the direction I'm hoping to go.
Awesome. Thank you, Bobby. So for Bobby, it was really being able to like individualize a program to fit the skills that she wanted to develop, and also given being a single mom, wanting a program that had the flexibility as well. So evening coursework, for instance. So those kind of things you want to think about, like what are your needs? Okay, so now digging into each requirement. So your resume. You definitely want to take some time to look at all of your resume, all of your experiences, your background, and try to relate your resume as much as possible to the programs that you're applying to. Include internships and volunteer experiences that you might have. Highlight any accomplishments that you want them to know about, especially if it relates to the program or maybe certain skills that's going to help you in the program as well. You want to maximize your space as much as possible, so make sure to be concise. If you have more to share it, but don't add fillers. So again, really focusing on relating it to the programs. And then make sure you proofread as much as possible. Visit your career centers or reach out to advisors, friends, etc. I'm sure there's a lot of folks that would love to support you in writing a resume. And then also with proofreading, I don't know if a lot of you know, but there's Grammarly, which is a really great tool to use. And I would definitely recommend looking into it. It could be useful for writing a statement of purpose or writing papers in general. I've used it all throughout my grad school experience. Letters of recommendation. So you typically, want to have 3 letters. That's usually what's needed. Our programs typically require 2. And faculty are preferred, but also it's case by case, and depending on like how long it's been for you since you've graduated, and who are your more recent connections that you've established relationships with, professional relationships with, that know you well based on your qualities and skills. So like I said, faculty are preferred, but supervisors are, just as great for meeting the letter of recommendation requirement. You want to make sure that you express your interest beforehand to, the individuals that you're requesting these letters from. Help them as much as possible by providing them with, the program outcomes, your resumes, portfolios, LinkedIn. If you have your statement of purpose written, it might be helpful to also provide that to your references as well. And then compile all the programs that you plan to apply to and share all at once. So that way they're not getting like so many notifications about, various programs, but, you can just let them know about all the programs you're applying to so that they can create perhaps a general letter of recommendation that fits for all of them. And then make sure to stay connected through the process with your references. Set a good deadline. I always recommend setting deadlines before the actual deadline, so that way you have some leeway time before the actual deadline to make sure that they get their letters in on time. And then have a backup. So even if a program only requires 2 or 3, you should still reach out to maybe an additional 1 or 2 folks to make sure that you have the number of letters of recommendations that you need. And then these are just some general questions that we get. So should you ask for more letters? Yes. And this is also a backup in case you don't hear from potential like recommenders, and you have some backups. Now, I also wanted to expand on like faculty and supervisors only. You can also think about mentors, perhaps. Those can be really great letters as well. Any advisors that you had, or even colleagues in some capacity, as long as they keep their letters professional and they can really talk about your character and your attributes. Bobby, if you could share with us, who did you choose for your references and why? If you can give us a little bit insight to your process.
Yeah, thank you. So for me, I think for the leadership studies, they were only requiring 2, but you can do more. So I decided to do 3. I asked my advisor because he knew what I was going through. He knew who I was, how hard I was working, etc. I also decided to choose a professor that was not easygoing. It was a professor that challenged me, a professor that eventually got to understand who I was and my worth. So that's who I chose. And then also a supervisor from work. So that way they kind of got an overview of not only how I'm in my identity as a student, but my identity as an employee, a worker, a supervisor also. So I made sure that they understood the well-rounding of who I was, not just as a student.
Wonderful. Thank you, Bobby. So yes, if you have academic references, that's a great, way to showcase that identity as a student, like Bobby mentioned, and then supervisors for your work or professional identity. Or you can have 2 of the same or 3 of the same. That's okay. Oh. Okay. So with transcripts, once you create an account for your program, you can then request transcripts even before you complete the app. So this is the case for our application. It could be a little different with other institutions. But your transcripts, you can send those, even before you start or submit your application. So definitely start that process as soon as possible. And if there's deadlines that are close to maybe the holiday season, make sure you request those before the holidays, because a lot of times register offices will close during the holidays, and then it could delay the time that you get your transcripts. If there are any indiscretions in your grades or GPA, your statement of purpose is going to be like a good place to address that. So you definitely want to double check GPA requirements, because your GPA might actually already meet it. And if it doesn't, like mentioned, you can include a brief statement and within your statement of purpose, like maybe 1 or 2 1 or 2 sentences, briefly addressing it in a way that fits within your narrative. Some institutions perhaps might have, the availability for you to submit an additional statement, but generally it's better to just put it within your statement of purpose or personal statement. And then you will likely need transcripts for all schools attended. So check with the institutions and the program requirements, because for our application process, you only need the one where you got your degree from. So the degree granting institutions. And then in progress transcripts. So for any folks that maybe are still completing their programs, we do accept, those in progress transcripts. They still do have to be official transcripts. And then if you are admitted into our programs, then we'll require for you to provide proof of final grades. But that'll be at a later date. Standardized exams, if those are required, for either the master's and or doctoral level, check the admissions requirements, again, check what minimum scores are required or average scores, and then how weighted those scores are. Because perhaps it's not a big, factor in the admissions process. So you don't have to feel very overwhelmed or stressed over these exams. For our admissions process, we do not require these standardized exams. We might recommend it if your GPA is lower than our minimum preferred GPA. Or, if you're already taking it for other institutions, it really doesn't hurt your application. It can only give it a boost if you submit the scores. But again, it's not required for our programs. So about the statement of purpose. So you'll probably see two different terms, statement of purpose or personal statement, throughout your research of various admissions requirements. So statement of purpose, usually it's about what you want to do. How will the program help meet your educational and career goals? Talk about academic or research background, more career focused and more formal versus, personal statements are what you are. So how does your life experiences, opportunities, challenges affect your decision to apply for the program? Any cultural, geographical, financial, and educational background. It's more human focused and less formal. And typically, personal statements are going to be 1 to 3 double spaced pages. And sometimes, this is why it's great to talk to admissions advisors, because sometimes they might say that it's a statement of purpose, but really it's like a mixture of both. Which is the case for our admissions application and maybe the case for other institutions as well. So it's kind of one of those things where it could really be the same. So same, but maybe different. And I'm going to have Bobby share, a little bit about her statement of purpose process. What did you focus on? And we do have a separate session this week, but, briefly, if you can share a little bit about, how you got started with your statement of purpose and what were the things that you highlighted?
So for me, what really helped me is I attended a few open houses in what they were looking for, because it's really hard to write about yourself for most people. So going to different open houses to figure out what they're really looking for. And I found out that they're really looking for who you are, what you overcame, and what you're hoping to do once you complete your education. So for me, my focus for my master's, which was completely different than the PhD, I just wrote about my experiences while I was attending school, what programs I decided to participate in. I even had earlier, my GPA was not up to par. Well, so I transferred from a community college. So for my community college, it brought my overall GPA down. So I wasn't as high as I needed to be for the requirement, but through the bachelor's program, I was on the dean's list for most of the time. So I just explained in a few sentences why, what affected my GPA, so that they'd understand what I was going through during the process of attending school. So it makes it a little more personal, so they can see who you are. So, and then I focused, if you traveled anywhere, how it made you feel, how it changed you, your outlook. That's what I wrote in mine. And also, you just got to figure out what is the whipped cream and the cherry on top, because everyone is getting really good grades right now. Everyone's working really hard and doing everything they can. So you need to figure out, what is it that makes you special? What makes you different than the next person that has a 4.0, or even now people are going above 4.0. So what is it that makes you different? And what are you hoping to get out of school, and what are you hoping to achieve once you're done?
Thank you, Bobby. Just making sure I'm going to the right slides. But yes, I echo everything that Bobby shared about, her tips and insights for writing the statement of purpose. Really think about all of the qualities, experiences, the things that, are influencing this direction in your life. And what do you bring to the table? How are you going to contribute to the learning objectives or the program objectives? How is the program, vice versa, going to help you develop into the professional that you want to be, or just the person in general that you want to be? And then after you apply, or after, the admissions process, don't forget to send some thank you notes to the individuals that, helped you throughout the process, like wrote your letters of recommendation. Inform them of your graduate school plans, so let them know like what the outcomes were. Attend any campus visit days or preview weeks that the institutions might be offering for you to get just a feel of what it's going to be like. Select a school that has accepted you and submit a deposit, and then make sure to inform the other graduate programs, if you already accepted an admission, and let them know of that decision. And then some additional information. The SOLES online application and all application materials must be received by the deadline, so that your application is complete and ready to review. So if you are applying to any of our programs, this is very important to make sure that you start getting those application materials in ahead of time, especially the official transcripts and your letters of recommendations. If your degrees were completed outside of the US, you want to make sure that you get those transcript evaluations done on time. Or if you are a student that will be on an F1 visa or an international student, taking a look at those extra requirements that you might have to fulfill. Make sure to check and double check those deadlines. We have a page with all the deadlines that you can review for all of our programs. And just note, in our admissions process, there sometimes is a grace period that is offered for pending documents, but we do highly, prefer for materials to be submitted and received by the deadline. And then generally it takes 4 to 6 weeks for reviews and decisions. And this can vary just depending on the program, if there's an interview that's involved, et cetera. And then make sure to ask for your fee waivers. So by attending this session and any of our other sessions, not just this week, but overall, you are offered an application fee waiver. And the way to get that is to just email us once you're ready to apply and submit your application. And then, get familiar with the application systems. They're all a little different. Our application lets you, make edits, save, and then come back. So you can, take your time completing it, but not all applications are going to be the same. So definitely get familiar with the various applications that you're going to be completing. And then financing your program. So this is a big, major factor, I'm sure, for a lot of folks, especially when selecting your graduate programs and thinking about the investment. So some things to ask: what portion of students receive funding and how are they funded? What are the stipend levels and benefits provided by departmental assistantships? Is tuition waived with an assistantship, or is the student responsible for the partial or full tuition costs? And then how long does the average student take to complete the degree? That's a factor. So, like how long you have to consider your finances to be able to complete your degree. We have some helpful resources. So we have the SOLES Tuition and Financial Aid webpage, and then we do have an upcoming Understanding Graduate Financial Aid webinar on October 27th, so next week, I believe, at 4 p.m. Pacific time. So we'll actually have our one-stop advisor or two join the session and present information about the various loans and important deadlines to look at, what types of grants maybe are available or what aren't, the difference between undergraduate and graduate level funding, et cetera. So we do have that session. And then I would like Bobby to just share a little bit and perhaps give some tips or advice from your experience.
Thank you. So regarding what I learned late was you can apply for scholarships and grants beforehand. A lot of scholarships and grants are, you need to apply and they're given for the next. So some of the applications you can do right now and are due, but you will not receive that until the spring or the fall of 2022. So it's good to go through and look at the due dates for anything you're hoping to apply for regarding scholarships and grants. They're given a semester or a year beforehand that you need it. So that was a very great learning experience for me. Also, if you do receive any grants or scholarships within the program, make sure that you have looked and understand how many units you need to be taking to get it, to receive it, because they are unit appropriate. So let's say originally you were going to do 9 units and then you decided, I don't think I can handle this, or something, comes in your life and you can only do 1 class or 2 classes, and that will change how much you will receive, meaning you'll end up having to pay more out of pocket. So just be aware with that process of the grants and the scholarships. And most of it will be through getting I can't think of it, where you apply for, like, it's not FAFSA, but you go through the FAFSA process for the loans. They have different student loans you can receive. And so you might have to look at that. If you decide you don't want to do a loan, you can also do payments, which I know a lot of students do, where they do a payment plan and you pay every so many months a certain amount. So I did scholarships, grants, and loans.
Thank you, Bobby. So it's really important that you meet with the institutions or individuals in the programs that you're interested in, to just get a sense of like what kind of resources are available, understanding the various types of financing options, and also understanding when you'll be taking courses and the different funding distributions, I guess, for the different scholarships and loans. So definitely start that process as early as possible, attend as many webinars, have some questions ready for those sessions so that you get the answers to those questions, because it is a major factor. It's an investment. Assistantships. So, there are graduate assistantships. There's also perhaps doctoral assistantships, or in our case, we have doctoral research assistantships. And we also have research assistantships at the master's level as well. But generally, they provide a monthly stipend, or maybe it's hourly pay. Some might include housing or scholarships. Some might have a service requirement, so they might require you to do some teaching, some research, or some administrative duties. Some have certain time commitments, so that might vary depending on the position. Typically, full tuition requires a 20-hour per week commitment. And then there is some training and experience and opportunities to network in your field that some of these assistantships provide. But again, the assistantships and the type of funding that you get through them varies per institution. So make sure that you ask about those as well. And we have a page where a campus employment section where we list some assistantships that are available. But the nice thing about our programs and departments is that they've actually send out an email at the start of each semester or whenever assistantships become available. They'll list all of them, the requirements, and the ways that you can apply to them. And then again, another note on financial aid. So you'll have to submit the FAFSA. So student loan programs are available, and most graduate students qualify through the financial aid. Ask about, again, assistantships available outside of your department as well. Inquire at campus units such as libraries, student affairs offices, and other services units. Utilize the career centers to assist in finding outside opportunities. Alumni can also use their career centers and alumni networks. So definitely encourage you to reach out to your institutions where you graduated from and see what kind of resources are available for alumni, because you might have those access to career centers, maybe to libraries, any resources that could help you through your process of applying to grad school. Ask about resources available to your individual cases. So if you're an undocumented, documented student, what resources are available? If you're a military veteran, what are your benefits or other resources? International student resources as well. So definitely make sure to ask about those things. And then you can also, most of the time you can visit financial aid web pages, but it might be helpful to meet with somebody as well. Sometimes it's tricky to navigate all the websites. We have a great financial aid page on our SOLES website. Like I said, we also have the Understanding Graduate Financial Aid on October 27th, and then we'll also have another one on November 30th. So we do have some extra sessions. And looks like that is it. So that's it for our presentation, but we will now open the floor to questions. You can feel free to chat them, or you can unmute or raise your hand and we'll call on you. Any questions out there?
Hi, I have a question.
Yeah.
I'll start my video. Oh, there I am. Sorry, the lighting's really bad in my room. I was wondering, I'm applying or going to be applying for the mental health counseling program. Does the faculty and the program assist you in like the steps to getting licensed and like becoming an APCC, or is that really like on our own? I've just been looking at the requirements and it seems really overwhelming, the process of getting licensed.
Yeah, I mean, that's not something that you have to worry about quite yet. It's something that you'll start doing near graduation. You know, once you've completed your practicum requirements. And yes, we do have, I mean, the faculty will be able to support you with that, giving you the resources, letting you know, I guess, what the requirements are. So there will be a support system available once it comes time for you to register to get, you know, your, what's it called, a certification or a license as an associate clinical counselor or marital family therapist.
Wonderful. Thank you.
But it is a good question to ask other institutions as well.
Yeah, thank you.
And then we do have some questions in the chat. So one's from Jessica Guerrero. Who would be the best to reach out to with questions about USC's tuition reimbursement process for employees, One Stop or HR? So you will want to contact HR. They do have somebody that works with the tuition remission benefits stuff. One Stop, I would say stick to HR for that one. And then also talk with the programs that you're interested in, so you know like how many classes you'll be registering for. There's another question from Esther Wolf. So if I graduate in December, should I wait until after I graduate to request a transcript, or is that cutting it close? No, so you should request your transcript as is right now. So an official transcript, we're going to receive that. It'll show that your classes are in progress, and that's okay. That'll satisfy the requirement. And then once you're graduated, we will ask for you to provide proof. But that'll be typically like before starting your second semester in the program. So it's okay if you're still taking classes and not done with your degree, but we'll still need the official transcript just showing that it's in progress. Of course. So we have another question by, and I'm sorry if I butcher your name, Niyaz. Would you recommend taking a gap year if I don't have a lot of experience to add to my resume? This is a good question. And I think it's really up to your own needs and perhaps the program. You know, some programs are going to require some years of experience, but sometimes that experience, perhaps you already fulfilled during your undergraduate, maybe not in a full-time job, but maybe it was done through volunteer or through a part-time job. So you might not have like the full-time experience, but you might have already developed skills that are going to be resourceful, like during the program or during your career development. So I would recommend for this one, you know, talking to admissions advisors and just seeing like if the requirement's a hard requirement or if it's, you know, just case by case. Sarah Crawford, what is SOLES acceptance rate? That is dependent per program, but I would say generally like a 30 to 40% acceptance rate. What does the process of submitting letters of recommendation look like? Is it through an online application? This is a great question because it might vary based on the application that you're completing. For our application, there is a section where you submit all of like the program related requirements, and that's where you would create the letters of recommendation requests. So you'll put your references contact information, so their name, email, you can set a date and then send them like a message. And then once you save that request, it then sends them an email with a link to a portal, some questions for them to answer, and then a location where they can submit their actual letter. But you can, you know, once you save the request, you're satisfying that requirement. So even if we haven't yet received your letters of recommendations, but everything else is completed in the application, you can go ahead and submit. And then we'll update your application as we receive materials. Oh, thank you, Hazel. Yes, so it ranges from 30 to 45% acceptance rate. Okay, and then Paula asked, how do we know if the leadership PhD program will be interested and our perspective focus, I'm assuming, unless that's a word that I'm just not familiar with.
That's me. So just it should have been in, not and, but the topic that we want to explore through the leadership PhD, are there topics that might be rejected, or how would we reach out to somebody to find out if that's a topic that they're going to consider worth exploring?
Yeah, Bobby, I don't know if you want to, chime in on this one.
So when they're asking for the application, which is different than the master's wants to know who you are, what you're hoping to do, what you've learned in your experiences. For the PhD, they want to know that you're going into the program somewhat knowing what your focus is. It can change once you get accepted. It doesn't matter. They just kind of want to know that you are serious about researching something and about somewhat how you would go about it. They just want to know, because you haven't taken the classes yet, so you're not going to really know what methods you're going to use, but you can give them an idea of what you were hoping to research and what you're hoping to get out of the research.
And also, we encourage folks to connect with faculty during your application process, to connect with them on your research, especially those like folks that perhaps have experience in the areas that you're interested in. Connect with them, let them know what your research interests are, and see if that's something that they would be able to support. Go ahead, Bobby.
Sorry, and also they would in that process of they also, so you like Shannon was talking about, you need to go and look at some of the PhD professors and look at who you think would fit best in helping you achieve your research and your dissertation. And again, it can change once you get accepted, your topic. It's just, they're just trying to get an idea of what you're hoping to learn and get out of the education at USD.
Yeah, and there's a wonderful learning outcomes page for all of the programs that gives you an idea of like what the goal of the curriculum is and what we hope like students take out of the curriculum and the program. So I think looking at that will also help even in writing the statement of purpose. So not just at the doctoral level, but also at the master's level, I think will help as well. And hopefully you'll attend the PhD in leadership studies session, because that'll be a great question for the faculty that joins that as well. Oh, and thank you everybody for letting me know that. Is it Italian foci is plural for focus. Thank you. Okay, how high is the rate of acceptance for international students? Any tips for international applicants? I unfortunately do not know the rate of acceptance for international students. I mean, there's really no it's not like we review each differently. Everybody's reviewed the same holistically. So regardless if you're international, domestic, etc., you're reviewed the same. So really that general admissions rate, it would apply to you as well. And then any tips for international applicants or applications, just review all the application requirements and when, you need to have certain things submitted. Certain processes might take longer. So I guess my biggest tip is just to look at the requirements and give yourself time to complete the application requirements. If you can get connected with students that, went through the process, that's also something that I recommend, is just to speak to them and what that experience was like. And we do have like an international scholars department that knows more about like the visa requirements and information. So I would recommend also meeting with them or talking with them about like what kind of things you should expect or anticipate. Would it be too late to reach out to faculty of applying for fall 2022? No, you can reach out to faculty even after applying to the program if, to talk about your research. We recommend, reaching out to them, as soon as you can before the deadline. So that way it could help like your statement of purpose and talking about the faculty member, especially if you're applying for like a PhD program. But otherwise you're welcome to connect with them at any point throughout the application process. And, definitely review the deadlines, but January 3rd is the one for PhD in leadership. PhD in education has a separate deadline. And does SOLES have any supports for minoritized students? What about McNair scholars? Great question. So, we do have a lot of resources on campus. We have like a student engagement and support person who develops a lot of awesome like events and workshops for students. We also have a lot of graduate student organizations that provide community to all types of students. And, you know, based on programs or just based on different aspects, like cultural aspects. Bobby, I don't know if you want to chime in on this. I know you're really involved in SOLES.
Yes, I think 2020 kind of helped with that, needing to have extra support since we were at home and we couldn't reach out and be with others. There's quite a few of the programs that I have been part of. And SOLES Ambassador is one of them. We also have Mentor Collective. If you need a mentor that will help you, you can apply to that. It's somebody that's a student that has already possibly gone by, you know, through the same things that you are going through. They'll have a questionnaire and try to match you up evenly. We have students that are going through coaching courses that will help you with any questions. You could be one of their clients, and they'll help you with life, school, or work if you need it. I know personally, I've done the Women of Color, the first generation programs. So they do have quite a bit of different organizations for you. I'm also, and I can't think of the entire name, but DRC, I have a disability. So if you need that, make sure you reach out to them to, because it might take a little while of them requesting certain documents and everything for that. And also, if you don't mind real quick, I had regarding the fee waiver, make sure you email them days before, because it might take them like a 24, 48-hour period to give you the code that would pay for it. If you do it that day, you might not get the code. And also regarding the grants and scholarships, they don't apply to summer or intersession. They only go for spring and fall. And the sooner you apply for FAFSA, the sooner that the grants and scholarships would be able to consider you when you turn in your applications, because they base it off of the FAFSA. I just wanted to throw those in.
Thank you, Bobby. And we have Thelma, we have a page on the website for like newly admitted students. And I mean, everybody has access to it, but we have a great section on there that that has videos that a lot of departments on campus created that talks about the various campus resources. So, I mean, there's a lot that's provided once you're admitted, including like access to a Facebook group where you can also ask questions there. And there's a lot of folks that can help add, you know, respond to them or to build community and so on. And then Caitlin, you asked, are the applications reviewed all at the same time or after the deadlines, or are they reviewed as they are submitted? So this is depending on the program or department and how they do reviews. Generally, you would expect for the reviews to start after the deadlines. But there are some case by case. I will say maybe if you're applying to the teaching programs, that can be a bit rolling basis, but after the deadlines is generally when applications are going to be reviewed. Are interviews involved in the application process? This is also depending on the program that you're applying to. So review the application or admissions requirements, and there should be a note on there regarding interviews and whether that's like a required part of the process or if it's just a case by case. And then are interviews only in person or can they be done over Zoom? Generally, there's always been an online option for folks that can't make it to the in-person interviews, but it could be changing with, you know, having done virtual stuff. And so they might continue to offer two options. I don't know yet. So more information regarding interviews will be provided. And if that was a counseling related question or marital and family therapy, might be worth asking during the program information sessions. Okay, I think I got through all the questions in the chat, and we have 5 more minutes. So are there any questions? You can feel free to unmute if you'd like.
I didn't have a question, but I actually got disconnected, so I don't know if you guys touched upon it, but I was wondering if Bobby could speak to the international experience piece like required by the SOLES program.
So I started in 2019, and when I was supposed to do the summer program in the summer of 2020, we couldn't, nobody was allowed to fly out anywhere. So you are able to now currently, hopefully it stays that way, but you are able to apply for it. They also have a little bit of grants for students that have not been able to travel abroad previously. So that will also help a lot of first-time students doing that experience. They also have classes that you can take instead of traveling abroad, because not every student, it's either not feasible or time feasible for them to be able to travel. So there's many classes that you could do here in San Diego. But they also have programs that you could do. So if you're volunteering for something that is like international, like there's a lot of students that were able to do papers and part of their education that traveled to TJ to be able to help out, churches or students or whatever it is. And they were able to use that as part of their international requirement.
Thank you.
Yeah, and just in case not everybody's aware, our programs have a unique requirement where you have to fulfill an international or global experience. So that's what Ronnie was referring to and Bobby was talking about. But it's really, to expand the lenses of our students and help them gain in this like a cross-cultural or multicultural competency so that they have that for when they're working in their fields. And then is there a link for the clinical mental health counseling info sessions is what I got. So I will link the page for the virtual fall open house, and that'll have all the various sessions. So if anybody else wants to register for these other sessions this week, I'll put that link. And actually, I'm just going to link it to the webinars and events page. So that way you can also register to like the Understanding Graduate Financial Aid ones. So that's there in the chat. And then, so like I mentioned, this has been recorded. So you'll get the session within the next week after the open house has been completed. And then you are granted your app fee waiver. So as Bobby mentioned, just email us, a few days before you're planning on submitting, so we can get you that app waiver. And we have time for one more question if anybody has one. Oh, and actually, so my supervisor let me know that there will be a mass email with the codes provided. So it sounds like you won't have to actually request it as long as you attended. Yeah. All right. All right, everyone. Well, is there one more question coming up?
Hi, I don't know if you can hear me. I actually do have one question in terms of being able to brainstorm for the personal statement and also know exactly what kind of career goals, I guess, I would want to have and show in the personal statement. I don't know if you have any advice on how students go about that process and reaching out to faculty and specifically what to ask for in order to help show that in the personal statement.
Yeah, so I mean, generally at the master's level, you don't need to connect with faculty. A best way to connect with them is by like attending sessions where faculty will be in, and just getting a sense of like their insights of the program, the culture of the program and the institution as well. As mentioned previously, there's like an echo, so I'm going to mute you. But as mentioned previously, you can also connect with like your current institution or where you graduated from, like Writing Center, and to help with brainstorming on how to start the statement of purpose. I am happy to also meet in an advising appointment if you want, to talk about your goals and your interests in certain programs and, how you can get started on your statement of purpose as well. And then we also have a session tomorrow at noon where we're going to show examples of previous students' prompts so that you get a sense of like the things that perhaps you can talk about in your personal statement or statement of purpose as well. But we are at time, so I want to be respectful of that. Thank you everyone so much for joining. Thank you, Bobby, for being on here and giving your insights. Bobby will also be in the Masters in Leadership Studies session Wednesday, Bobby. I don't remember when that is. Wednesday, yes. So you'll see her again. Again, I'm one of the admissions advisors. So if you want to set up an appointment to talk about the programs, the admissions requirements, maybe it's about writing a statement of purpose, don't hesitate to connect with me by email or by setting up an appointment as well. And I'll put my email in the chat. But I hope you enjoy the rest of the open house sessions. Bye-bye.